After yesterday's win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, head coach Antonio Pierce was asked an interesting question about the team's position in the draft. The question was about how winning could lower their chances of getting the number one overall pick. His response sparked some speculation about his relationship with general manager Tom Telesco, with many wondering if the two are at odds. Some are even questioning whether Pierce's future with the Raiders is secure. When asked about fans focused on draft positioning, Pierce replied in a way that hinted he isn't too concerned about it. His response? Go talk to Tom Telesco about that. He doubled down later, saying the team doesn't care about fantasy football or draft positions. For him, it's all about wins and losses this season. This highlights the difference in their roles. Pierce is focused on coaching and winning games, while Telesco is responsible for roster building and planning for the future. However, these differences have fueled rumors that the two may not see eye to eye. Adding to the speculation, reports have surfaced suggesting the Raiders might part ways with Pierce after the season. Owner Mark Davis addressed this at a recent meeting, stating that both Pierce and Telesco would be evaluated separately in the offseason. This is different from previous coaching regimes where coaches and GMs were hired as a pair. For example, Mike Mayock and John Gruden, or Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, were tied together in their roles. In contrast, Antonio Pierce was brought in during the Ziegler-McDaniels era, while Telesco operates independently. This separation has created some uncertainty about the team's future. As for Telesco, opinions about his performance vary. Some fans criticize him despite the fact that his role isn't directly tied to game day results. Coaches are responsible for wins and losses, while GMs focus on building strong rosters. And by all accounts, the Raiders have a solid roster, even if they're missing key pieces like a quarterback, a top running back, and a true number one wide receiver after trading Davante Adams. Telesco has only had one draft and one offseason to work with, during which he had to address salary cap issues and lay the groundwork for the future. In my view, he's done a solid job so far. Building a competitive team takes time, 3 to 5 years at least. Rushing to draft a quarterback and expecting instant success would be a mistake. Telesco's moves in the upcoming offseason will be crucial to evaluating his strategy and vision for the Raiders. Meanwhile, another report from respected insider Josina Anderson has added more fuel to the conversation, raising further questions about what's next for this team. The Raiders are reportedly considering hiring a new head coach, while general manager Tom Telesco seems to be distancing himself from Antonio Pierce behind the scenes. This development ties into recent comments from owner Mark Davis, who made it clear that Pierce and Telesco will be evaluated separately during the offseason. Combine this with Pierce's earlier remarks about the draft, telling reporters to talk to Tom Telesco, and it seems like there might be tension between the two. Although Pierce has 1 year left on his contract, it wouldn't be difficult for the Raiders to move on if they believe they can bring in someone better. Mark Davis might see the opportunity to hire someone like Ben Johnson, a top-tier offensive coordinator who could become the next great head coach, as worth the financial cost of letting Pierce go. Pierce isn't a bad coach, but he's not a play caller on offense or defense, which means he relies heavily on his coordinators. That can limit his control over the team's on-field performance. For instance, Pierce was the one who brought in offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, but the Raiders' offensive play design has only recently started to improve, raising questions about Pierce's decision-making. This uncertainty fuels speculation that Telesco might advocate for a change. If the Raiders can secure a strong head coach with a clear vision, it could be the right move for the team. Switching gears to the draft, the Raiders' recent win dropped them from the number one pick, but that might not be as big of a deal as some think. Draft history shows that quarterbacks taken at the top don't always pan out. For example, in 2019, everyone thought Kyler Murray, Drew Lock, and Dwayne Haskins would be first-round quarterbacks. In the end, only Murray went in the first round. In 2022, prospects like Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, and Hendon Hooker were hyped as top picks, but only Pickett went in the first round, and even he was selected 20th overall. None of those quarterbacks have become long-term starters. Even when multiple quarterbacks go early, it's no guarantee of success. In 2021, 5 quarterbacks were drafted in the top 15, but 4 of them are already on new teams. The only one with consistent upside is Trevor Lawrence, the #1 overall pick. Sometimes great quarterbacks don't even come from the top picks. Players like Jalen Hurts, 2nd round, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, both not first overall picks, prove that you don't need the first pick to find a franchise QB. Meanwhile, high picks like Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young show mixed results. Success is never guaranteed. As the Raiders finish out the season, their exact draft position will become clearer. However, history shows that getting the first overall pick doesn't always mean drafting the best quarterback, or even the right one. With the Titans and Jaguars playing against each other this week, one of those teams will win and move ahead of the Raiders in the draft order. If the Raiders lose to the Saints, they'll likely jump up to at least the 5th pick. Of course, a lot can still change. Teams can win or lose, and strength of schedule always plays a role. The Raiders could end up with the 3rd or 4th overall pick, which might still give them a shot at quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders or Jalen Milroe, depending on who declares for the draft. At this point, the best approach for the Raiders is to play it safe. If Telesco decides to fire Antonio Pierce and go for one of these quarterbacks, having a strong coach to develop them will be crucial. There are plenty of experienced coaches out there who specialize in offense and could make the most of a young quarterback's potential. A great offensive coordinator can make all the difference. We've seen it with Kyle Shanahan, who helped Brock Purdy, a 7th-round pick, become a starter with success. Sean McVay did something similar with Jared Goff, and later Matthew Stafford, leading the Rams to a Super Bowl. Even when Stafford eventually retires or moves on, McVay will probably find another quarterback to build around. The key is having a strong offensive system in place. Just look at how Matt LaFleur has transitioned from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love and still managed success with the Packers. The same goes for the Raiders. The right coach could turn any quarterback into a star as long as they're supported by a solid system. As for the draft, it's important to remember that the best quarterback isn't always the first pick. This year, some consider Bo Nix the best quarterback, even though he was the last QB taken in the first round. Caleb Williams, often viewed as the top quarterback, is not a guarantee either, and even Jaden Daniels is having success. This shows that evaluating quarterbacks is far from an exact science. Given the Raiders' current situation, they should definitely target a quarterback with their 3rd or 4th overall pick, or even 5th if they can. If they're 100% confident that Jalen Milroe will still be available in the 2nd round, they could wait, but a quarterback is a must. While the Raiders need a quarterback, they could also look at other positions. If they choose to take someone like Josh Conley or Travis Hunter, I wouldn't be upset. Even someone like Tatero McMillan from Arizona could be a good choice. I do have some reservations about taking a running back like Ashton Jenney from Boise State, though. While he's a great player, running back is a position where the Raiders could invest strategically without using such a high pick. Running backs are generally interchangeable if the right investment is made, and we've seen teams draft great running backs in later rounds. There will be multiple talented running backs in this draft. At least 6 or 7 are expected to go in the first 2 rounds. All of them have the potential to succeed in the NFL. especially with a good offensive line and a solid run game system in place. Another option is strengthening the defense, particularly the cornerback position. With Nate Hobbs being a free agent, the Raiders might not be able to re-sign him. They could move Jack Jones inside and add a corner like Will Johnson to the outside, giving them 3 strong corners to build around. In the end, the Raiders have options. Even if they don't get the ideal draft position, they could make smart choices to set up for the future. While a win might not help their draft status, it doesn't hurt their team in the long run. I have a feeling that Antonio Pierce won't be with the Raiders by the end of the season, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.